Hello, welcome to another Terrain Tuesday. In this, we're going to be looking at making a chapel, a growl chapel, I guess. Inspiration for this come from issue 300 of White Dwarf, possibly one of my favourite issues from this sort of era of White Dwarf. Mainly because look at that handsome young chappie there. Yep, that is me in a battle report. But yeah, in this is a brilliant article, has a brilliant issue, has loads of great articles in it about various, for all the rangers at the time. But it had this great Brettonian sort of campaign thing in here, and in this it had a load of ideas for little terrain projects here. So you got this. This is the Grail Chapel, but that's not what we're making. I forget what they're calling it. I don't even know what it is. But yeah, anyway. Has these great little terrain projects which I might dip into, but one of the things I really like was this here monument, they're calling it. So this is what we're going to be making today. Sort of, but it's sort of inspired, but I don't know if I'm going to do this because I want to make it somewhat generic. We're not going to have a statue in there, so that allows you to put your own statues in there. And I probably wouldn't glue one in myself anyway, so I can swap out different statues. But we're going to make this monument. So yeah, let's have a look and get on with it. The first thing you're going to need to get is a about 4-inch diameter polystyrene ball, and you're going to need to cut this in half. I didn't measure it, just eyeballed it where half is and used my hot wire cutter to do the cutting. Next up, you want to use some pink foam and then measure around your cut ball to draw the circle. It's 10mm thick foam that I'm using here. You draw around a circle, that's going to be our base. And make 2 of these because I'm going to use one for the base and one for the bottom part of the roof. Next I'm going to get a compass to draw a smaller circle. You can see next to me here are 2 lengths of dowel. These are going to be the support pillars. So the circle needs to be the width of the roof minus the width of 2 of these support structures. So I'm just going to use that to roughly eyeball a slightly smaller circle. All it's got to be is that this circle's got to go in. The supports, the structure's got to go on the outside of the circle. So as long as I've got enough room for that, 2 of those, that's the circle I'm going to use, and I'm just going to draw this onto the foam. Once more, using the hot wire cutter, I'm just going to cut out all of the circles we've just drawn out. Very carefully. I do have a tool for this on my hot wire cutter, but sometimes I just find it easier just to do it by hand, especially if I don't want an exact perfect circle, if I'm doing something that's like meant to be worn with age kind of thing. Here's cutting the 2 smaller circles. I decided to have a extra small circle that was even smaller for a top piece, just to add a bit more interest to the piece. The smaller circle will be the one that the statue will sit upon. Next up, I'm just going to use PVA glue to attach them all the pieces together. So it's just a case of putting glue on the bottom of the pieces and gluing them together. So 3 circles will form the base, like so. And the other large circle will get glued onto the bottom of the half polystyrene ball. Whilst they're drying, we can make the actual support columns. I'm just using some dowel and cutting some 4-inch lengths, and the dowel is about a 1/4 of an inch in diameter. Once the pieces have been cut, I am just using some sandpaper just to smooth out the bottoms and level the bottoms out a bit. Okay, so now it's dry, we want to just add some detail onto there and also cover up this sort of join. You can see where it's not very cut very well. For this, I'm going to use a strip of card, or thick paper in this case. This is 300 GSM. It's going to come in and we're going to glue it around here. But you'll notice that if you're using especially like A4 paper or card to do this, you're going to get a little gap here, but don't worry, we're going to add some sort of shield emblem type thing here later on to hide that up. So yeah, you're going to need a bit of card. This is just slightly over a centimetre wide, and I'm just going to use PVA for this, so it will again take time to dry. If you can use other glues if you want. I just like PVA glue. For me, it's one of the better finishes. Takes a while to dry, but it gives me that finish I want. Hot glue gun, it's thicker. It has, you know, so things don't glue flush to the surface as much, and in this case is what we want. And plus you get all the wispy bits. Epoxy resin, I guess you could use, but I just find PVA just a general great all-purpose glue. Certain glues you could use super glue, but super glue can eat through polystyrene, so I just tend to persevere with the slow drying time. I mean, that's it in place. I can just hold this now. It will only take 5 minutes for me holding this for it to be dry enough for me to let go. I've also got another strip I'll show you here, which is about 1/2 centimetre, and this is gonna, once dry, gonna glue round the top bit here just to add a bit of interest to the piece. So yep, that's how it's going to look when it's dry. Just got to put the shield emblem thing on here. But before we do that, I'm going to get some rolled up tin foil and add some texture on here. The one in White Dwarf had textured paint on it, and I think that looks like sort of a DIY textured paint. But it looks too coarse. It looks more like pebble dash than sort of stone texture effect for this scale. You could make your own. I've done it before using some fine sand, but even so, I think that would be too much for what I want here. So I'm just gonna. I can see why they've done it, because these polystyrene balls are horrible. They have the polystyrene texture, but I think for this it might actually work, because it looks like it's got a texture on it already. And also just going to come in and do the same for here, and particular attention to the edges just to smooth them out a little bit, and the surface going to come in and just add some texture. Yeah, I think I've used rocks before in the past. That would be too much of this. I just want a subtle texture effect. So I'm going to carry on and do this. So here they are, looking nicely textured, nicely worn. I guess if you wanted to, you could come in and put slabs in here. I might do that now. If I do that, I'm just going to eyeball it. So I'm just going to come in and make it look like massive. Like so. Just so I got some, looks better, I think. Don't forget to do texture and draw down the sides. And what I'll do is I'll go over these later on I don't know whether to do some here or leave it as a solid piece. I might leave it as a solid piece and just do it like that. I like that. Next up is the emblem here. I'm just using some chipboard. It's like 1mm chipboard, 2mm chipboard. I'll be that thick. I've just cut out a shape that's wider at the top than it is the bottom. Curve the top a little bit just to add some interest, and then I'm gonna curve it here so I can glue it onto here, and it just adds a bit of interest. If you're building this for an army faction, whatever game you play, possibly put a shield on here of your army faction of choice to make it tie into your army, whatever you're doing. I'm going to leave mine blank for now. I want to make it as generic as possible. I'm just going to glue that onto there. Next up, it's gluing the columns in. It's just going to be an eyeball thing and hope for the best. I'm just going to put a bit of PVA on and glue it to the centre of one of these stones here, fairly near the outside, further to the outside than the inside. Eyeball it to make sure it's straight and just leave it. You might need to put something on to support it. I don't want to get too done, it's going to be tricky. It's where you might want to use a faster drying glue, and again put one here like so. Yep, as I thought, that was a disaster. They just were not going to stay up. So but what I have done is pushed in hard so I can see where I want them. And I am going to try some super glue and hope it doesn't melt. I'm going to use a combination of super glue and PVA at the bottom. Hope it doesn't eat away too much. I'm going to do that for all of them, just to get me going quicker. There'll also be a issue of I haven't cut them exactly the same length. We can deal with that in a minute. This allows me to get them in, eyeball them straight, and hopefully they'll like so. That's working lovely. So now it's just repeating the same process but putting the lid on. If you put your lid on and it sort of wobbles, it's not, you haven't cut your columns quite straight. Find out the one that's taller and just push it in a bit more. It's my tip. So for this, I'm just gonna, I know exactly where it's gonna go. So I'm just gonna put a whole beading of PVA around here, so I know I'm gonna hit it, and then super glue at the top of each column. I've already had a play around. You want the door at the front here, like the emblem at the front, and you're just gonna put it on and just give it a spin round to make sure that all the legs look somewhat even. Right, that's it. That's just that one there. Make sure it looks okay. I'm happy with that. We can't see it here, very difficult to show at this angle, but it's on there, so I'm going to let that dry and show you once it's all on. And this is how it would look like when it's all dry, if you can see that. Just got to paint it black now, so give it an undercoat of black, which we're going to do now. Once it's undercoated, it will look like this. If you do have Mod Podge, you can do a Black Magic Craft and put Mod Podge in your undercoat, and it will just seal it. That's what I've done here. And next we're just going to paint this in different shades of grey. I'm going to use Storm Cloud, and this one here is called Urban Grey, but it's just a sort of mid-tone grey and a really light grey. Heavy dry brush with this, light dry brush with this, and if you want to, just give it a rinse with black wash. I mean, I'm sure you've seen stuff painted grey before, so we won't dwell on that too much. Okay, now we've got it painted to how I want it. Add some more detail if you want to it, but that's how I want it. It's kind of, I want to go for this stylized look. It's time to flock it. I'm going to use these different flocking materials. I use flocking lightning because This is leaflet. So what I've got here is a dark brown, which I'm going to use for dirt, just to put in around the edges here, maybe in the cracks, just where some dirt's got in. I'm going to use this just because it's got that yellow thing. It looks like that mould that sometimes grows, so I'm just going to use this sparingly. And this static grass I'm going to use as a sort of a more moss base, sort of growing around where it's got mouldy and mossy. And this, once it's all dry at the end, I'm just going to dab in the odd bit of leaf in there that's blown in the wind. That's what I'm going to do. So first I'm just going to come in, just going to get some glue in places, not all over. I'm going to get a brush in a minute and add to it. I just want some just around the edges here of the plinth, as it were. Maybe some down here, coming down. Not a lot. You don't need a lot of glue on this part. You can even add some in on the bottom here, places. Okay. I'll do. And come in. Use an old paintbrush for this. Water it down a bit. What I'm going to do is just come in with it and just manipulate the glue a bit more where I want it. So I do want it all around the base of the plinth. Maybe some round pillars here. The pillars meet the floor. You can just take glue from one place where you might have got too much on and just move it to another. Don't need to be too thick here. I don't want it covered in the stuff, but it's just for the dirt. I just want to get where dirt has blown into it, and over the years it would have been standing for, in my mind, centuries, probably even longer than that. Yeah. There we go. And the first bit I'm going to do is going to dump around the outside. So this isn't. It's going to go in the box. So you can see it's just got a bit of flock in there now. So come in, add it on, tap it back into the box. You end up with something looking like that, which is just exactly what I want. Liking how this is looking. And that is sort of the amount I'm going for. I'm going to do a similar thing for the next sort of bit of flock I'm putting on, which is this one with lots of yellow bits in, so it looks like that mould. I don't know if you've ever seen it, if you have it in your country. It's like, and this I just want little sprinkles, nothing overkill. So don't want it too much on this. I've got it on the columns here. That's what I'd imagine mould to be. Got on the roof section here, on the top. Probably going to go a bit more heavier with the moss. I'd say more moss, but this just, I mean, if you don't have this kind of flock, you can probably paint this on just by splattering yellow paint over it. It's just meant to be that mould you see on gravestones and monuments, at least in my country. I'm actually getting more of it on the I think that would do. Just something like that. Okay, so virtual flocking now. Final time, just gonna put some static grass on. We can do it while this mould glue's drying, as it were. Even better, because it will just fill in and drop into that area as well. Just gonna get some glue, stick it on. Get more stuck to my fingers than the actual terrain piece. Yeah, so this is representing mould, not mould, moss rather than mould. The other flockies was mould, got the earth, and then once this all dry, we'll just add a few bits of leaf scouring places. Really finish it off. This has been in the elements for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Something like, so you end up with something like that. So turn that light down. Pretty much almost finished now. I just want to add some long grass sort of here, maybe here. For this, I'm just going to use. Oh, it's come from the signal box. This is something that's no longer there. I must have bought this years ago. Anyway, yes, it's light green, whatever. It's like sort of long grass. And all I'm going to do for this is put out a chunk of it. Sorry if you can hear the traffic in the background in this bit. It's a hot day and I don't want to close the window, so that might be too much. I'm probably just going to cut it in half. So there we go. I'm just going to get some PVA on here, do it on the other side. Stick that on, roll it round, and then maybe just add a bit of super glue here to try and get that to soak through. I'll let that dry and trim off the bottom. And when people ask me why do I use so much PVA glue rather than super glue, it's because of things like that. I just find PVA just the best all-purpose glue just for getting things done. But there you go, that will allow to dry, and that's it. We're pretty much done. We should have when it's dry, we'll pop a statue in there to see what it looks like complete. And this is what it looks like when it's all finished. So you have the long grass here, all the moss, the dirt, and the mould, and that's it. It's a simple build, but if you want, you can put some sort of emblem up here if you're building it to tie in with an army faction, and then just get any sort of statue model you have, put it in there. So there's something that looks like that, or show different statues, something like that. And so it just finishes it off. Or if you don't have any statue models, you can. I don't have any to hand here, but you could paint up an old miniature you don't want, sort of paint it grey, and put it in here, and it would look just as good. So yeah, that's it. That is the monument. So thank you for watching this video. Until the next one, guys, take care.